Over this past summer, I've only taken like one trip. I went upstate, but between upstate and New York City and the record store, I've bought a lot of records this past summer, specifically in Beacon at Hudson Valley Vinyl, in Cold Spring, upstate New York, at this strange little shopping mall that had a cool record store, even though nobody was there, and I had to pay the lady who was selling tiki dolls or something. Billie's Record Salon, Jazz Record Center, Human Head Records. So I found some cool things, and the prices are on most of these records. I didn't pay a lot for these records, but these are, you know, off the beaten path kind of records, things you don't see every day, things that I was happy to find. Beginning with Walter Bishop Jr. Hot House. This is from the early 70s, 79 rather, on Muse. Sam Jones, Al Foster, Bill Hardman, Jr. Cook. Walter Bishop has enjoyed a recent Resonance Record Store Day release. And this was actually at the store, and actually Billy Jones from Billie's Record Salon came in. Or no, it was Jeremy Elkin rather. My friend Jeremy came in and bought another record I didn't know we had that was really cool and funky, a Walter Bishop record. So yeah, there's that. Hank Jones, Swing Songs from Gigi, with Don Lamont on drums, Joseph Galbraith on guitar, and Arnold Fishkin on bass. This is a cool cover. Gigi was a popular Broadway and movie vehicle in the early 50s, late 50s, early 1960s, and this is really understated, but Hank Jones is such a brilliant pianist. I have most of the great jazz trio records that he's sort of commandeers, and this is just cool and fun, and on Golden Crest Records, Huntington Station, New York. They have the technical data, which is really funny. Tape recording was done on Presto and Ampex studio tape consoles. Master acetates were cut with Graham-Pian feedback cutters, back when they really cared about that kind of stuff. And it says a signature by Billie, March 20th, 1963. So that's cool. An OJC of Presenting Red Mitchell. I don't have this. Billy Higgins, James Clay, Lorraine Geller on piano. Masahiko Togashi, Session in Paris, Volume 2, Color of Dream, with Albert Mangelsdorf, Takisho Kaka, and Jenny Clark, JF Jenny Clark. This was a really interesting drummer. This is on Paddle Wheel, the really cool Japanese label, who lost his legs in some sort of a strange accident. But I only have one of his other records that was reissued a couple of years ago, and they're really great. They border around free jazz, but they're just really expressive, really coherent, cogent performances. And this was the store and I grabbed it. Really cool. Sam Rivers, Dave Holland, Volume 2 on Improvising Artist Inc., which I think was Sam Rivers' label. I'll grab just about any record with Dave Holland on it. And this is a duo, so you can really hear Dave Holland's playing. I really want to hear the bass. Acoustic bass is a great instrument to judge the low end on your system and the extension, because a lot of systems just produce low end. They can produce really deep, a deep pitch, but very few systems can produce the detail of an acoustic bass, the full extension to where you hear the full body and the neck. It's kind of rare. I have these speakers behind me, the Voxative Ampegio 2024, that don't have the deepest bass in the world, but they have a single full range driver that is just incredible. So I get this beautiful liquidity in the mid-range, incredible separation, but I do give up a little bit of bass. I mean, there's plenty of bass here, but as I said, these don't reproduce the serious, like the grip of low end, the detail, the change in pressure of a great bass player. Anyway, this is a cool record. Al Galper, Now Hear This, with Cecil McBee, Terry Masahino, and Tony Williams. This is a weird record. One of the first records I ever bought was a Hal Galper record. And I'm not sure who he played with. He might have played with Mingus or somebody. But a cool record. I really just bought it for Tony Williams, who's kind of overbearing. Here's a record I bought at Academy Records. Cecil Taylor, John Sermon, Albert Mangelsdorf, Stu Martin, Bear Phillips, Frederick Goulda, Nachricht van Lande. I have no idea what that means. And strangely, it's on the Brain label, which I associate with prog rock, which I associate with European prog rock. But it's a concert recording. Fun. Billy at Billie's Record Salon knows that I'm a percussionist, that I love drum records, and he held this one for me, which is really wild. Stand Free, Piano a la Percussion. So you hear on Old Town Records, which I've heard was actually a mafia-run label. Arthur Prycek was on Old Town. And it's one of those records that was popular in the late 50s, early 60s when people like Desi Arnaz were popular and Cesar Romero and U.S. culture. The whole Latin lover thing and Spanish culture was a big thing. And so, I mean, that's sort of the left side of this, but you get a lot of percussion records because people were dancing to merengues and tangos and cha-chas and all that stuff. This is before the whole bossa nova craze. Stan Freeman, Joe Benjamin, the drummer, Maurice Mark, Jose Mangual, and Patato Valdez. And this is a burning record. Gary Peacock, December Dreams on ECM. It's a cutout, Warner Brothers, 1979. Again, I'll buy any bass record. I love solo bass records because they're all different and you can really judge the spatial qualities of your system. Plus, I just love well-played bass. My friend Eddie Green, who comes to the store, kind of hit me to really great arco playing, which I wasn't that aware of and didn't really like till he played me a bunch of arco. And since then, I've dug even deeper into just bass. Gary Peacock, who played a long time with Keith Jarrett, I think it's died recently. Cool ECM record. And I'll buy almost any ECM record when I see it as well. ECM has started doing their Luminescent ECM vinyl series, albeit slowly. Here's the latest one from Kenny Wheeler, Angel Song. I haven't unpeeled this yet. From 1997 with Lee Konitz, Dave Holland, and Bill Frisell. But there's no drums! But I can't wait to put this on. Sticking with the ECM vibe. Now I got this from this little weird store in Cold Spring, New York, which is a quiet little town right on the Metro North line. Where you walk in, it's like, it used to be probably a big department store, but now it's a series of little small businesses. There was a lady selling candy, antiques, and then there was in the corner a guy selling records. Actually, there was nobody there was just all the records. And I found this really cool, The Hapless Child and Other Inscrutable Stories. Actually, it's pre-ECM, it's on Watt, with music by Michael Mantler with Robert Wyatt, Carla Bley, Steve Swallow, Jack DeJohnette, and Terrence Ripdahl. Holy smoke, what a lineup. I listened to it a little bit in the store, and it's one of those sort of, slightly psychedelic, slightly free. This is probably early 70s, 72. Even though they're way under the radar now, I predict I'm making a prediction with my bank of computers and my vast knowledge that at some point Savoy records are going to become popular. They're all cut by Rudy Van Gelder. They depict a certain era and time in jazz. Kenny Clark plays drums on a lot of them, and Milt Jackson is on many of the records. These are the British versions on Oriole of a couple Milt Jackson Savoy records. Jacksonville. They were so cheap in the store I just had to grab them. And they look, they've got the whole UK back cover. I don't know what you call this, but it is so cool. These are both mono pressings. I need to do a little homework on these, but I was happy to find them. When I went to the UK, rather when I went to Europe to cover Munich High-End 2024, earlier in the year, we visited Gold Note, who make wonderful turntables, and they make everything really. And they gave, at the end of the day, they gave us all like a little packet. And in mine was a copy of Billie Holiday, Body and Soul. Now this was direct, edited from original analog master tape by Gold Note. They're also part of a record label there. This is a copy 260 from 500. Haven't listened to this yet. And the artwork reproduction is pretty horrible, but looking forward to it. This came into the store. We had a big collection that Fred bought from, but it was full of like really mid-price stuff in great shape. One of being Bobby Hutcherson, Waiting. This is a Liberty UA copy, but I didn't have it. And all his records are so great. He's such a great composer. Now this was something really different. I can't remember where I found it. Wow, I just realized it has a laminate cover. Grant Green, Green Blues on Muse. You don't see this ever really. Frank Haynes, tenor sax, Billy Gardner, Ben Tucker, Dave Bailey. And it's a swinging record. I dig it. And it's a different look for Grant Green. Recorded in March 1961. But probably not released until the 70s. Somebody had a tape. Away from the jazz beaten track, Santo and Johnny. These guys sold a shit ton of records. I guess sometime in the 60s, in the 50s, had hit called Sleepwalk that really showcased the beautiful steel work. I believe these are a couple Mexican guys. They made a ton of records. The records sound amazing, very spatial. They're just beautiful. They cover Deep Purple, Old Man River, You Belong to Me, Long Walk Home, Venus, Lazy Day, The Breeze and I, Over the Rainbow. Kind of standard material, but they're fun, they're dirt cheap, and man, they're beautiful sounding records. Miles Davis, Philly di Kilimanjaro, first pressing, 1A stamper. This is in beautiful shape. I paid 65 bucks. I get a 15% discount, so I probably paid 58 bucks for this. You know, I have all the MoFis of all the second great Miles Quintet. They do something different than these do. These are earthier sounding, have sort of more overall tone, but those, the MoFis, are much more spatial. They're bigger, they're super dynamic, but they're kind of glassy sounding compared to these. There are 3 records in the Hank Mobley discography on Blue Note that were only released once, including Faraway Lands, Straight No Chaser, I believe, is another one, and there's one other one. I can't remember the names of them, but you know, 1984, Barcode, direct metal mastering, but it's that sweet spot with Hank Mobley from 1967 when he's still doing really hip stuff before he sort of falls into the trap of trying to do commercial covers, when his writing is really great, the lineups are great. This includes Donald Byrd, Cedar Walton, Ron Carter, and Billy Higgins. The people over at Rhino, Team Rhino, are doing fantastic reissues. They did Coltrane Sound, Ornette Coleman Change of the Century, Miles Davis Tutu. It's been so long since this record was out, I don't even remember what it sounds like. This is the beginning of the end, as far as I'm concerned, for Miles Davis. 100 gram vinyl, custom original analog Bob by Kevin Gray, blah, Plastic Optimal, includes insert. Notes by Ashley Kahn, that'll be interesting. Limited to 8,000, 5,000, but I just do not remember what this is. My Jazz Vinyl Lovers group on Facebook, please join if you haven't done so already. It's a group of about, how many people do we have? 13,000 members across the globe who post really cool albums all the time, and members contact me occasionally who are musicians, as did Luiz Munoz. His album Glimmering Path I promised to review, and I will. As stated earlier, I love Hank Jones. I'll buy anything with Hank Jones because he is one of the great master pianists in jazz. The Great Jazz Trio live at the Village Vanguard Volume 1 with Al Foster and Eddie Gomez. This is a really cool record because I like Ron Carter, but Ron Carter kind of resorts to sound effects sometimes on these Japanese pressings. This is Toshiba EMI, East Wind. So Eddie Gomez plays it kind of straight. But on the other hand, I'm not a huge fan of Al Foster, but he works really well on this record with Eddie Gomez. This is just another great, you know, record. Those guys playing the standards. I don't know, I paid 30 bucks for this. If you can find these records, they're great, and they all sound great, and they're beautiful, sublime performances. This is from 1989. Now, one record that I was shocked to find at Cold Spring was a record I've never seen anywhere, anytime before. The debonair Mr. Johnny Hartmann, All of Me, on Bethlehem. And this is well before the Coltrane record or his other record on Impulse. This is more swinging, more fun. The big band is happening. Bethlehem Orchestra, conducted by Frank Hunter. Players include Lucky Thompson, Jerome Richardson, Danny Bank, Ernie Royal, Howard McGee, Frank Rehack, Hank Jones, Ossie Johnson, Milt Hinton, recorded in 1956 in New York City. This is just a great record. And it's the one I got. It's in really great shape, even though it has, I think it was at a library, because there were like taped information on here or something. But, you know, there's some really cool stuff on Bethlehem. And I thought, oh, I'm going to go, let me check out all the other Bethlehem records. A lot of them are kind of corny and not that worth having. There's some Chris O'Connor stuff on there, and Frank Rosalino, and Mel Lewis, and some other stuff. But I was just really excited to get this. This is a cool record. Another artist I will buy whenever I see her records, and often I only see them once and I never see them again, is the great Carmen McRae, When You're Away. You know, she, it's fun sometimes with people who've never heard jazz or heard a jazz vocalist. I'm dating this lady who doesn't know anything about jazz, so I played her some Carmen McRae records, and at first she didn't know what to think, and the next day she's like, what's her name again? So she had Siri, or whatever her box is, play Carmen McRae, and it was stuff I'd never heard. But Carmen McRae is so smart and so articulate, and is such a great artist. She doesn't get the praise that Billie Holiday or Nina Simone or Ella get, but she's right up there with her. I actually prefer Carmen McRae. Carmen McRae really sounded like an adult compared to Ella, because I mean Ella's really joyous and fun, but Carmen, it sounds like a woman who's lived a life and has had a lot of experiences, because you hear the maturity in her music, and she made a lot of records, quite a few on mainstream, and they're all really hard to find. So I just grab them when I see them, and they're all really great. I mean, they're all sort of timepieces, but there are always some performances on each record that's great. She does I Concentrate on You, I'll Be Seeing You, just standards of the period, but you know, she's so great. I also have a soft spot for electronic music in all its forms. I love Kraftwerk, I love drum and bass music, so I found this Klaus Schulze album from somewhere, Time Wind, 1975, on Virgin. Now I forget who Klaus Schulze was with, but you know, playing all these classic synthesizers, Synthi 1, Synthi 2, Synthi 3, Synthi 4, Synthi 5, Arp Odyssey, Elka String Machine, Fart Jitsu organ, or Farfisa piano, and it's just dedicated to Richard Wagner. I love these records because they, analog synths, and now people are starting to play analog synths again, have such a human feel, and they would get out of tune, but they're so human and sort of freaky sounding. So this is really a symphony of analog strings, synths. Another artist who's becoming hip again, Blossom Dearie, Shea Wahlberg. Her records are very hard to find, but it's nice to see that people understand and appreciate. At first you hear that little girl voice and you think, what? And then you realize once you listen to her delivery with her piano playing how hip she is. She epitomized, to me, New York City. This is 1985, but she was recording in the 50s on Verve, and man, just so, talk about debonair and, you know, urbane and witty and knowing and fun, really, really fun. Just what a great artist she is. Blossom Dearie, Shea Wahlberg, Part 1. When I was in Europe, a guy told me, a writer, you have to go to this store that has like 5 feet of ECMs. I got there, they're only like 2 feet, but I was able to find a bunch of European pressings of ECM that I did not have. This is a great one, Pat Metheny with Charlie Hayden and Billy Higgins, really beautiful. Another Luminescent ECM title, Gateway, has been reissued. Now I have a couple copies of this. Now right off the bat, the artwork is too dark on the back, but whatever. Now they're all gatefolds, as back when they were originally released, they were ungatefold, whatever the word is. So they sort of go out of their way now with more photographs. This is cool. They ship the vinyl inside the record, inside the sleeve, but outside the record. So more photos from the session, which is really great. And liner notes by Nels Cline. Woo! I got a Nels Cline record in here. So this is really, really cool, and I'm really curious to hear. I mean, generally I assume my original copy is going to sound better, but not necessarily, because this was pressed in Germany. So if my original copy is US, ECM Warner Brothers, this is probably going to sound better, even though I have an original German Gateway as well. Another great ECM record, Eberhard Weber, The Colors of Chloe, Runer, Brenda Bruninghaus, Peter Geiger, Ralph Ubner, Ack van Rooyen, and the cellos of the Sid Funk Symphony Orchestra. The choir consists of Eberhard Weber and Gisela Schaub. This is just a beautiful, gorgeous, shapely, epic recording. Like I said, I'm way into basses. Dave Holland, Bear Phillips, music from 2 basses. This is one of those records I got in Europe. No, it's a jazz record store, but it's German. On a different tip, and I don't know where, oh God, this is the store. This is a wonderful Wes Montgomery record. Down Here on the Ground. What a great record. This is AM CTI. I mean, just Wes hits every possible sweet spot on here with a great band. Arranged and conducted by Don Zabisky and Imur Diodato. Windsong, George on My Mind, The Other Man's Grass is Always Greener. Up and At It, Going On to Detroit, I Say a Little Prayer for You. I don't even pay attention to what the songs are when I listen. His playing is so iconic and so beautiful. And on this record, a little melancholy. Really, really epic. We got in Woody Shaw, Song of Songs. And this includes Woodrow Theus II on drums, or he was, as he was better known, Sonship Theus, whose recordings are very rare. He died young, but a really great drummer. And Emmanuel Boyd, Raymond Morris, who made a couple of great records for mainstream. George Cable's Henry Franklin, who made a couple of great records for Strata East, or was it Black Jazz? Benny Maupin. Anything with Woody Shaw. He's such a great player and such a great composer. And Elemental has done quite a few live releases of his work in the past few years, and those are essential. I have heard people say that Bitches Brew is not a jazz record. I only had a recent reissue of the album. It sounded absolutely miserable, had a horrible digital glaze over the top of it. So into the store came 2 original pressings of Bitches Brew. And to me, this album fulfills all the requirements of a masterpiece. It's interesting because they're just kind of like jams, and I'm sure like Kinda Blue, he just gave them very brief sketches. But the mood on the day these guys recorded, Chick Corea's, Joe Zawinul, Harvey Brooks, Dave Holland, John McLaughlin, Jack DeJohnette, you know, it's just very young. It's just, to me, it's like you're in a spaceship flying over some unknown planet. There's all these possibilities, all these things that are about to happen. And all the members of the crew have their own personality, and they take it in different ways. But the thing is always just grooving and bubbling and simmering. And if you can find an original copy or an early pressing, you know, this is an original 2i. I've also had the 70s pressing, but the recent pressings of this thing is just miserable. This I found upstate at Hudson Valley Vinyl. I didn't know what it was, but I'm a drummer, and this is a cool freaking record. Czeslaw Bartkowski. And it's kind of a fusion record, but it's just burning. And I was like, wow, this is really cool shit. Also bought upstate. Johnny Lytle on Muse. Barney Kessel on Contemporary. May I Come In? Blossom Dearie. Perhaps her most common to find record is on Capitol. This was pushed really hard. They even photoshopped her face to make her look more pretty. I think she's a knockout, beautiful lady. But of course, this is Showbiz, put her in a mink stole, the era of Mad Men. But this, you know, her debut album for Capitol, orchestra arranged and conducted by Jack Marshall. And it's great. All her records are great. If you can find this one, it's probably $10. I paid $15 for this somewhere. A Savoy I've only seen once, and I bought it right away. I bought it right away. Montage. Eddie Byrd, Hank Jones, Donald Byrd, John Mahegan, J.R. Monterose, Frank Foster, Paul Chambers, Kenny Clark. You know, they're mono. It's kind of a haze over Savoys. They all swing in the same way because they're almost all Kenny Clark. Beautiful laminate, cool cover. I'd buy any Savoy, sight unseen, sound unheard. We keep going with Ray Brown, bass hit, early verve, conducted by Marty Paik, whose son went on to play in Toto. 99. Yeah. Also on Muse, Catalyst, A Tear and a Smile. This is kind of a progressive group. Tyrone Brown, Sherman Ferguson, Eddie Green, Odeon Pope. I asked Fred, because I paid this for $15, one that looked exactly like this, as far as I know, without the cutout, sold for like $300 when we put it up on eBay. It was sealed. Really cool if you can find these. A little more traditional interplay, Bill Evans, Philly Joe Jones. It's said that Philly Joe Jones was Bill Evans' favorite drummer. Arista Freedom did a cool series of progressive thinking jazz records in the 70s. This is a great record. Charles Tolliver, The Ringer. Progressive but in a more demonic, crazy, intellectual way. Sunshine of My Soul, Jackie Baird. Vital Blue. Promo, $10. Billie puts all the records in these cool Japanese sleeves, which I used to hate. But now I realize he also sells them with beautiful inner sleeves. If you just do that, and you can get to them really easily. So it took me a long time, but I figured it out. Russ Prokop record. I'm also a sucker for any kind of a Japanese high fidelity record. Pro Use introducing Panta Murakami, produced by Jun Fukamachi. Toshiba Records. Back in the day when I was a child and I worked at the Jazz Record Center in 1990 full time, when I still was trying to be a jazz drummer, labels like Enja, Muse were common as dirt, including this record by Nels Cline, Angelica. Stacey Rowles, Alex Klein, Tim Byrne. 1988, Enja. Only seen this once.